Speed ranking 20 Xerjoff fragrances in order of the ones I like the least to the ones I like the most. The only Xerjoff fragrance I've smelled that I do not like, it smells like a blooming citrus tree in the spring, but photorealistic. I'm not sure why we in the fragrance community call it photorealistic, because it's not photorealistic. Ultimately, it was just too green and not for me. Absolutely gorgeous bottle, gorgeous opening, but after about 5 minutes it turns into nothing more than just a musk fragrance on my skin. I would rather just get not a perfume and save myself like 200 bucks. This is actually very similar to Apollonia, but it has more depth because of vanilla and fruits and florals. But again, just like Apollonia, after a couple of minutes it turns into nothing more than just musk. Time to make some people mad. Naxos gains points for originality, but loses them for just not smelling all that good. Of all of the gorgeous fragrances that Xerjoff has released, I'm not sure why one of its lesser offerings has become the house's most popular, but that's life. Fruity florals are one of my least favorite genres of perfumery, and adding in honey, a note that I don't really like, doesn't really help it all that much. But even despite that, I think 400 is still pretty good, just not for me. Definitely gains a lot of points for having the most fun name to say, Golden Dollar. Golden Dollar is black coffee and a very sweet jammy rose. As much as I love this fragrance, the jammy rose in it just gives me a headache, and I can't justify placing it any higher on the list. I think of Aceral as a rose oud take on a blue fragrance. The rose in here is actually very similar to Golden Dollar, but for whatever reason, this one doesn't give me a headache. But I am docking it points because it is just so strong. After hour 12, I'm like, ugh, I get it. It smells like a very dusty chocolate orange that was made from organic ingredients, so it's not as sweet as it should be, and it doesn't really taste that good. Pleasant enough, but could be better, especially for its hefty price tag. Everyone knows and loves Alex 2 by now. It is a lavender-heavy rose oud. I think Alex 2 is great, but spoiler alert for the rest of the list, I think it is outshone by its flankers. So I actually know that my nose is wrong with this one. To me, anytime I smell cardamom, whether it's in a fragrance or when I'm cooking with it, it smells to me like orange. So when you combine that with clove and cinnamon and almond, to me this comes across as like an orangey spiced cake, and in that way it reminds me a lot of Symphonium, but I think it's better in every way than Symphonium, and it's like half the price, so there you go. My rating and ranking of Ivory Root don't really show how much I actually like this fragrance. It is a lot of spices mixed with a very nice vanilla, but the problem is that those spices kind of smell a little bit like BO, and as such I have to really be in the mood to wear this one. If I'm putting it on and I'm not in the mood, it is kind of nauseating. Commandante smells like a very powdery vanilla Coke. I think if they cut the powderiness by like 50%, this would be an excellent fragrance. Much like Ivory Root before this, even though I really like this one, I really have to be in the right mood for it. Alex 3 is just Alex 2, but with the rose cranked up to 11. I also find that the rose is sweeter and more likable, and it makes it a lot easier to wear than Alex 2. Xerjoff's Barnyard Oud mixed with a very delicious caramel sauce doesn't sound like it should work, but it really does. Villacovor 1 is really fun and really unique. The only thing that stops it from being top tier in my books is that it's just a little bit too peachy. I think if they had turned that peachiness down by like 10%, mwah. The second of the Star Twins, Xerjoff, please just let us buy them individually. I know that you're supposed to layer them, but Amber Star is just so good on its own. The amber accord is beautiful, and it is supported by a lot of woods and resins. Xerjoff, I am begging you, please just let us buy Amber Star on its own. That's right, bitches, Herba Pura. I know that it is trendy to hate on Herba Pura now, but there was a reason why this was so popular, and I think everyone has forgotten it. Herba Pura is just a mood booster. I don't even think it smells that good, but whatever they did in here, it makes me feel happy just smelling it. I think the fragrance community uses the word masterpiece a little bit too freely, but I am gonna use it here. Ouverture is weird and unique and probably doesn't smell like anything you've ever smelled before, but it is also, most importantly, wearable. As different as it is, it actually smells good, which I think is something that gets lost when we get into weirder perfumes. Really, the more I wear Ouverture, the more I get to know it, the more I appreciate just how brilliant it is. Xerjoff's Barnyard Oud is back again, this time in the form of an Alexandria fragrance. I always feel the need to justify why I like this fragrance because it is pretty poopy. The opening of this fragrance definitely smells like a stinky diaper, but once that stinkiness fades, it becomes deep and velvety and rich, almost chocolatey in a way. I know that the opening will scare people off, but this is my favorite Alexandria. And lastly, at number 1, Tony Iommi. I connect with this fragrance on a deeper level than I ever thought was possible. It is a very natural patchouli and rum and incense and caramel. Something about this DNA just matches up with mine. It embodies everything that I would ever want to smell like. Tony Iommi is not just my favorite Xerjoff fragrance, it is my favorite fragrance ever.